It says this, but each in his own order, Christ the firstfruits, after that those who are Christ's, and his coming, then comes the end, or then the end. When he hands over the kingdom to the God and Father, when he has abolished all rule and all authority and power, for he must reign until he has put all his enemies. By the way, we've already passed the verse that this person is asking about. I believe the verse that he's asking about is, it says, when he hands over the kingdom to the God and Father, is essentially, I think that verse, I'll bring it up in accordance here in a second. It goes on, when he has abolished all rule and all authority and power, for he must reign until he has put all his enemies under his feet. The last enemy that will be abolished is death. For he has put all things in subjection under his feet. But when he says all things are put in subjection, it is evident that he is expected who put all things in subjection to him. When all things are subjected to him, then the Son himself also will be subjected to the one who subjected all things to him, so that God may be all in all. Now, this is often used to say, see, look, Yeshua is not God. Yeshua is not, he's lesser than the Father. He has to give back the kingdom to the Father, and he will then be subject to the Father himself. So obviously, Trinitarian theology must be wrong, or even Binitarian theology must be wrong. Yeshua is not on equal ground with the Father. He is subject to the Father. He is, and I've even heard people say he is a created being that has come to simply be the Messiah and has no divine nature at all. I fully reject this and think that such a reading of this text completely misses the point of the text itself. And I ultimately think that this comes into the discussion of what it means that Yeshua is begotten of the Father. Something that I think, and let me show my full hand here. This, I'm sure, will get a lot of emails. I actually think that a lot of the church fathers got this wrong. I think that the idea of what it means to be begotten of the Father has nothing to do with the idea of birthing or anything like that. I mean, certainly we can say that the Holy Spirit begot Yeshua in Mary's womb, but ultimately the idea of begotten, Paul says in Acts that that Yeshua was begotten when? At his resurrection. So what does it mean that he was begotten at his resurrection? He was proven to be begotten at his resurrection. Well, this means, this is covenantal language. And what the Suzerain Vassal treaties would do back in the ancient time, the 1400s and whatnot, some of the language would be, today you are my son, I have begotten you, which meant that you have full authority. I have sent you, I have given you full authority over everything. What is the other thing that a firstborn gets? Anyone? It is the birthright. Christ has the birthright to all the world. And the reason why is because he is the firstborn. It doesn't mean that he was created. It doesn't mean that he was born of the Father before eternity passed or anything like that. So the idea that begotten somehow means that he was created outside of time or something is idiotic. Okay. 1 Corinthians 15:23 through 28. Rob, would you like to take this, or do you want me to?
No, go ahead. I did the one. You go for it.
Okay. So basically, I take this to mean that it is proof that his work is done. In other words, if somebody gives me a something to do, if somebody gives me a task to do, if my father says to me, okay, I want you to complete this task. Once it's finished, what do? I present it to him. Here it is. Yeah, Christ is commissioned to do what? To go and save the elect, to overcome death. And it says so in this text, right?
That death itself is an enemy,
right?
That is destroyed, that is put under his. So he destroys death.
So the idea is that the death of that overcoming death is what Christ has done for the elect. In other words, covenant membership. Within the covenant, what do we have? We have blessings and curses. If you do these things, you will be cursed. In other words, sin has a retribution, and that this is going to tie in perfectly to our next discussion on Hebrews. What is the payment for sin? Well, ultimately, it's death. And so Christ has come to overcome death for the elect. And what is the proof that he has done this is when he hands back the kingdom to the Father and no more death is there. And Yeshua says in Philippians 2 that he has become a servant, right?
Right.
So certainly he's subject to the Father if he's a servant. He comes and he washes the feet of the disciples. So, I mean, he becomes a servant to the creatures from the dirt that spit in his face. Mm. And now he takes the kingdom, he overcomes death, he hands the kingdom back to the Father. He says, done. I did it. It's accomplished. And this actually plays into also Matthew 5:17 and following when it says, until all is accomplished. Well, the question is, has the kingdom been handed back to the Father without death? The answer is no. So all is not right now accomplished. Now, I know what the response is going to be. Okay, well, the response is going to be, he says on the cross, it is finished. Well, we would have to then get into the discussion of what is finished. But ultimately, the idea of 1 Corinthians 15:23 through 28 is not a mark against Yeshua's deity. It's a mark of his deity. That's the point, is that he's overcome death. And the only being, the only thing, the only person, whatever you want to say, in the entire cosmos is, in fact, God who can overcome death. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button and check out more videos from Messiah Matters.